guys, you're welcome to another beautiful day with me, Obinje. Oh, on Obinje O Talk. And like I always say on Obinje O Talk, we're going to be talking about lots and lots of relationship issues, relationship challenges, the ups, the downs, and sometimes I'm just going to be giving you advice and tips on what to do. The journey of being a mother is not easy. It's not something that as as difficult or as easy as it might be. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Just being a mother has made me see life from a different perspective, and I'm really grateful to my maker for that. We could go on all and talk about Mother's Day, but that's not the topic for today. But what I have to talk about today is still not far-fetched from what it is to be a mother, and I'm going to be talking about the various reasons, 5 reasons. I'm going to be giving out 5 reasons why mothers, wives involved in domestic, relationship, abusive relationships cannot just, afford to walk out of these relationships. They can't just afford to walk out of these marriages as against, whatever situation they are being faced with in the relationship. Oftentimes, when we get to hear that, oh, this woman has been abused for a long period of time in her marriage, what comes to mind is that, oh, you've been abused, not once, not twice, not thrice. I mean, we just can't count. And the first thing that comes to your mind is, why don't you just walk away so that you don't end up dead, or you don't just, become the shadow of yourself? Obviously, if you're in a marriage that is, full of some kind of drama every now and then, trust me, it would have come to your mind to, walk out of that marriage. But there are several reasons why women who are, you know, in this kind of marriages cannot live. A number of them have found it somewhere within them. They've been able to draw strength from wherever and, taking the bull by the horn and walked out of this marriage. But unfortunately, just a few of them. There are so many women stuck up in this kind of marriage, and that's why in recent times it has become, so alarming. We begin to hear of cases whereby a wife has killed her husband, or the husband, killed his wife in one of those their numerous quarrels or arguments or fights. And that's what we are now faced with in the society. It's very devastating. It's so painful when you have to hear all this. But if only things were just as easy as ABC, then perhaps a number of women, or all women who are faced in this kind of situation, would not walk out of the marriage. So you're welcome back, and I was talking about, the reasons why women cannot live abusive marriages, and I'm just going to give you five reasons, or 5 points why a number of these women have been, stuck in this marriage, or in this, abusive marriage that has really nothing good to offer to them other than tears, pain, and regret, self-pity, or all you can imagine. And the number one reason why most women can actually, walk out of an abusive marriage will be that of what people will say. Yeah, you heard me right. What people will say. You see, we are so consumed with what people will say about our lives, instead of what we have to say about our lives. It's like we live just for people's validation. We are in marriage just to, how do I even put it? Most women are in marriages just because they want to meet a particular standard the society has, dropped for a married woman. A lot of people are in marriages that they have no reasons to be inside today, because they are afraid that if they actually walk out of that marriage, the society is going to, label them as a wayward woman. The society is going to label them as a woman who couldn't build a home. Some people don't even just have the strength to, to fight when wagging tongues left, right, and center. So because of that, what people will say, or what this will say, or what that person will say, they just remain in the marriage, and unfortunately they are there for the longest period of time. Some of these women end up dying. Some of them are there living a life of regret, living a life of misery, just, taking each day as it comes, waiting for the day that perhaps they'll just go and meet their maker. You see, this thing about what people will say has, caused a lot of, damage than good. I'm not saying that you shouldn't pay attention, to what people will say about you, But of course, if you're going to have to pay attention to what people have to say about what is going on in your life, you should also pay as much attention to what is actually happening to you and what you have to say in your life, so that at the end of the day, you are not going to take the validation of someone over your life and then make a bloody mistake and live life and start regretting. So that's one of the reasons why a number of women remain in these marriages, because they are concerned about what their family members are going to say. They are concerned about what the society is going to say. They are concerned about what the church is going to say. They are so concerned about what everybody has to say. Ah, if you stay in your husband's house, you are such a, all those kind of negative talks. And it does has a way of, making things very, 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 and very difficult for the woman to live. I'm going to move on to the second reasons why most of these women actually can't leave their marriages, and that would be because of the kids. A lot of women use their kids as an excuse of not wanting to live a bad marriage. It's so sad, because when you hold on to your kids, you are actually, doing yourself some damage. Whatever reasons that you are using these kids for, I want you to know that these kids are going to grow up, and in no time that thing you were holding on to is no longer there. It's going to be you and the man there. And I know by this time, both of you, that's you and your husband, would have been fast spent in your age. And if you people are still together, or you are still the only woman in the marriage, there's really not going to be any kind of relationship between you and your man, because you used your youth to be fighting, to be, having a lot of hatred for each other. So back to what I was saying, you are holding the kids as an excuse not to leave your marriage. You're not doing anything within this period of time to, work on your marriage. You're just saying that you can't leave your kids for another woman to, to come and take care of. Because what actually goes through in the minds of most of these women is that, if I decide to leave my husband, in no time he's going to get married to another woman. And obviously, let's just be truthful here, when another woman comes into the house, is she really going to take care of these kids as the mother would have done in the past? We know the story of the stepmom and the stepkids here in Africa. It's not really a kind of story that would love to sit down and talk about. It's not a friendly story. It's not just sweet to the ear. It's either the stepmother is so bad to the kids, or the kids are, and of course, most cases, kids find it very difficult to accept the role of another woman as a mother in the house. So they're just going to be a little bit, on the edge, and the woman is not going to be finding it funny, so she's going to be a little bit, aggressive towards these kids. So most times when this mother actually thinks about what happens when another woman comes into the house, she's like, whatever the situation is, I'm just going to remain in this house so that my children have me on with them here, and they have this mentality that daddy and mommy is in the house. I think that if as a woman, if you're using this as an excuse to, remain in the marriage, then you should also put into consideration these same kids that you're actually remaining in the marriage because of. Is your stay in the marriage doing them any good or any damage? Is your stay here going to, impact positively on them? Why am I saying this? Is because most times when these women remain in the marriage, they end up fighting and fighting and fighting. And remember that you are the first, that is, you and your husband are the first school or the first pot of knowledge that these children have at the back of their mind. So basically everything they are knowing from the scratch is from what you and your husband are actually giving to them. So in most cases, what happens is that when kids or grow up in this kind of dysfunctional family, they end up being the abuser in their relationship in the future, or they end up being the abused. So mothers, if you're going to remain in an abusive marriage because of your kids, then you would want to weigh the options. Am I going to remain in this marriage and all we got to be doing is fight, and passing this kind of fighting down to the kids? Or am I going to stay in this marriage and work on myself? Trust me, you cannot change anybody. So if you're going to do any change, then it has to be to yourself, not to your husband. So you're actually working on yourself so that your kids actually see a better you, so that it actually impacts on how the outcome will be in the future. So the third reason why a number of these women actually do remain in an abusive relationship will be that of the financial constraint. A lot of women remain in marriages, abusive marriages, because they are cash struck. A lot of them do not have a reasonable sum of amount of money to, move out of their homes and start life afresh. A number of them don't even have anything to their names. Most of these women at times are in marriages whereby they don't get to do any form of work. All they do is sit down at home, and sometimes it's not any choice of theirs. When you're dealing with this kind of aggressive, violent man, you should expect that once he puts this kind of woman in the house down, he's going to cut her off from the world. That's his number one way of, being very manipulative. So he cuts her off. He doesn't want her to have any source of income. He doesn't even want her to, associate with the outside world. So when this woman is actually thinking of leaving the marriage, she has no form of resources or financial resources. She doesn't have anywhere she can actually go to and, get some kind of help so that she starts up when she moves out of his house. She doesn't have a business. She doesn't have any kind of side hustle. She's not working. She doesn't have anywhere to get money from. So she's just, kind of stuck right in the middle there. She's so dependent on him. He's the one who is bringing out finances, and you see the kind of money this man is going to be bringing is not even so much that she's going to be able to, save and plan for the future. I once heard of a woman who was able to save some amount of money, so that when it gets to a particular amount, she will be able to, move out of the house and start life at fresh. Unfortunately, her husband, one way or the other, found out that she was saving money. You know what this man started doing? He stopped bringing, good money to the home, and it was actually telling on the family. It was affecting the kids, their eating, their everything at home, down to even school. This woman had to dig deep back into her savings. At the end of the day, she was left with nothing. So she just, remained in the marriage pending when she'll be able to, raise up enough amount of money to, move on. And the unfortunate part of this whole thing is that while you're saving again, time is going. But like I would always say, it's better late than never. So this takes me to my fourth point, which will be family pressure. This family pressure is also, in relationship with what people will say, but I'm going to talk about it on a different level. Most of these women, when they start going through issues like this, people tell them, oh, move back to your father's house, move back to your mother's house. Don't you have family members? Don't you have friends that you could run to for help or whatever? So let's look at it from the issue of the friends. Most times these women actually do have friends, but at this point in time, most of these friends are not going to be reliable. And of course, I wouldn't, blame any woman who doesn't want to allow her married friend into her home. She's actually trying to safeguard her home. So when it comes to this point, your friends are not going to be reliable. Forget the fact that they might have been telling you in the past that, you can count on me when there's trouble. But my dear, if you paid attention to everything they were saying that time, then you'll be the biggest loser. So at this point in time, friends are not reliable to help you. So if it's a situation whereby she's been banking on that friend for help, at this point she's lost. Now let's move over to the family members. Some of these women, you remember, are coming from the low income family members, so their parents basically might be in the village. This woman cannot just phantom it in her mind to return back to the village, and then people will be saying, go back to the village, and she's like, go back to the village to do what? Am I going back to the village to be a local champion? Am I going back to the village, in fact, to do what? I'm going back with nothing. Where do I start from? When she looks at it, she's like, I could remain in the city in this husband's house and try to reevaluate my life again, or plan towards whatever. So she's like, her father's house is out of the question. Now sometimes their mothers are late, their fathers get to remarry, and like I talked about the stepmother and the other point today, this woman cannot go back to her father's house with his new wife. It's like there's going to be some kind of war there between her and between this new wife, because both of them are mature women who are actually responsible to their own actions or acts or whatever. And this woman who actually was the wife in her house, she might want to carry that behavior of a wife down to her father's house, and this is not her ship. So the captain of this ship is actually not going to find it funny at all. So most times it's going to be loggerhead, and aside even that, nobody feels comfortable actually going back to their father's house or whatever. Then we have the scenario of when I fall into this boat now. When I was getting married, I remember the advice my mother gave me. She was like, oh, when you get married, you have no reasons whatsoever to return into this house again. If you're coming as a visitor with your kids, fine. But if you're coming back here because you're no longer getting married to your husband, no, no, no. At this point in time when their mothers are saying these things, it sounds like a joke. It's so funny. But trust me, when you go back to your mother's house or your father's house, you have only 1 week. If that 1 week is even okay, then long enough for you, it's good. Most people, after staying 1 to 3 days, it becomes hell for them there. I mean, there's a film like that we watched, some Nollywood film like that, whereby the woman moved back to her. I can't actually remember the name now, but she moved back to her mother's house. At the initial stage, it was all rosy, but in the long run, by the time her mother started dealing with her, she was like, "Really? But are you not my mother?" The mother thought, "Oh yes, I'm your mother, but you don't have a place in this house." So when you sit down and look at it, this is another reason why most of these women just can't, leave their husbands. They don't have money, they don't have friends, they don't have anything that will make them actually stand on their own. So whatever, they just remain in their husband's house. The next point, which is my fifth point, and obviously my last point, it will be that of the religious beliefs or vows that these women have made when they were getting married. A lot of women hold so strong to their religious beliefs, and they just feel that come what may, they are not going to leave. And they begin to say, look, I'm not against any of this, but we're just talking, okay? So most of them believe that, when the man starts to misbehave, the best thing they can do is, pray for him, pray for him, pray for him, and he's going to obviously change. Well, every man to his tent. So if you're going to be praying for a mature man to change his acts, change his ways, it's up to you to do what you want to do. So that's another reason why most of these women don't actually, leave their marriages. They say their church is against it, their religion frowns at divorce, it frowns at this, it frowns at that, so they just can't leave. Then they talk about the vows where it's said for better, for worse, in sickness and in death, and in all of that they are they are just ranting, and they are refusing to leave the marriage, and they are stuck with that man who begins to or continuously abuses them. And it's so funny because if you're going to be using your vows to stay in a marriage, then you should put yourself into consideration to, has that man taking those vows as serious as you are taking it? Has he taken those religious beliefs as serious as you are taking it? Because marriage is not just one person, marriage is two people, and you two came together to get married. So if you're going to be saying, I'm not going to leave my marriage because of the vows, then you should also stop and think, is my husband actually thinking of the vows when he's beating me, when he's killing me? No, no. A lot of these women are abused daily, 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 and it's so unfortunate that these and many, many other reasons are the reasons why they just can't actually leave their homes. But it's, like I said, it's so unfortunate, it's so painful, and till women are able to get up and brace whatever comes their way, we're going to be seeing a lot of domestic violent cases in marriages. We're going to be seeing a lot of women being abused, being disregarded, a lot of women damaged and broken because they don't have an escape route out of this form of marriage. So these are the 5 points I can actually think of that make a lot of women remain, that makes a lot of women actually remain in domestic abusive marriages. If you have any points, then let's dive straight into the comment section. Let's talk about it, and don't forget that On Obinje O, we talk about relationships. And if you're not comfortable with any of these conversations I'm talking about, then you just have to sit down and ask yourself, why? So if you did like my video today, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed to it. Let's make this channel grow, 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 grow. And I'll come your way again with another beautiful topic on relationship issues, love, life, and marriage.